Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kashif Booth podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the age old topic, which I'm sure a lot of people are tired of talking about, but there's always discourse about this online every few months or so. And I felt like, you know what, I want to share my opinion on it. So today we're going to be talking about, should the legendary, iconic character James Bond be black? The discussion about making James Bond black goes as far back as 2011. In 2011, Idris Elba told NPR, "I just don't want to be the black James Bond." Sean Connery wasn't the Scottish James Bond, and Daniel Craig wasn't the blue-eyed James Bond. So if I played him, I don't want to be called the black James Bond. In a 2018 article with Variety.com, Idris Elba also revealed that he feels the same way about it. He said, "It's interesting that the James Bond thing continues to go. I think it's more about we just want to have a black guy play James Bond rather than Idris Elba, the actor, play James Bond. That's the part that I'm like, ugh, come on." And I agree. I feel like a lot of people just want to have a black actor play James Bond, and people think that that is what diversity is. They feel like, yeah, let's just make historically white characters black, when really that's not the case and that's not what we want. We want on-screen representation, but making James Bond black isn't it. In a 2022 article on popsugar.com, the journalist Latifah Jean Baptiste said, "The next James Bond should be black and British, and we're tired of asking." She argues that, particularly in British TV and film, there's an overrepresentation of a specific type of black male character, one who is usually linked to gang culture, drug selling, and other illicit behavior. Like many people I know, I'm fond of TV series and film like Blue Story, Top Boy, and Adulthood, but many of the main characters reinforce negative stereotypes, all to varying degrees. Sure, we're seeing a bit of a shift recently with TV series like The Capture and the Christmas rom-com Boxing Day, but still, even today, many of the depictions of black men are negative, and many of the black men in my life, such as portrayals, only flatten their experiences and contribute to the racial stereotyping they deal with on a daily basis. That's why this moment is so crucial. If one of the most globally recognized British characters is played by a black man, maybe the world would begin to grasp the concept of the black British identity. I'm certain that the news of a black man being cast to play the next James Bond would be met with praise within the black community across the United Kingdom. At the same time, it would be naive to assume that having one black man in such a popular role would create some sort of instant shift in the way black men are represented in TV and film. We know that one character won't dissolve hundreds of years of racism, bigotry, and systematic inequities. And we know that all black people going about their lives in Britain, more so than famous, wealthy actors, contend with that legacy every single day. But we can hold both realities as true, that a black James Bond would be a huge step, and that the path to true equality is still so much longer. Latifah makes some really good points within this article, and she addresses some of the negative stereotypes that are the portrayals of black men. And I understand her point, as into wanting James Bond to be black to show a diverse character or representation of black men, and I do understand that. And as a writer, producer myself, that's something that I'm pushing for. But I don't think making a historically white character is the way to go, because if they do make James Bond black, I personally don't think it will do well financially at the box office, because what's going to be the selling point? That James Bond is black? Okay, so what else, or what other reason do I need to see the movie? You know, she's listed a lot of points as to how it could potentially change the representation and image of the black British man within that context, but to non-black audiences, why would they be intrigued to watch the film? I don't feel like that's enough of a selling point to audiences to watch it. And that's what we need to look at. It is a business. We need to look at how is this going to be marketable to the audience outside of it being black. We can use, for example, Black Panther as an example. if you're not a comic book nerd or fan, you may have not known about Black Panther. And the reason why Black Panther, in my personal opinion, did well at the box office, especially the first one, was because the selling point was, this is a black superhero. We've never seen this. We've had like almost at that point almost 20 years of superhero films, and this is the first time we're getting a black superhero. So a lot of people are going to be drawn to that, and also people who are fans of the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. James Bond is such an iconic character, and I just don't see the selling point other than him being black. She does list, which I didn't share in the quote, but she does share about, the emerging of, British, African, and Caribbean cultures, and being able to come in, and the dialect and music that represents Black British culture. But again, I just don't see how, again, that's a selling point to the audience, and I just don't think it's gonna work. And she does say that, there would be some racism backlash, which we saw, which happened with the Little Mermaid and stuff like that. And sometimes when you look at the discourse, there is a lot of reasonings behind it as to why James Bond shouldn't be black, and a lot of it's because of racism. In 2014, US commentator Rush Limbaugh said Idris Elba should not be able to play James Bond because he's black, responding to rumours that the London-born actor is being lined up to one day replace Daniel Craig as 007. Limbaugh told his syndicated US radio show that Bond was intended to be a white man by creator Ian Fleming. James Bond is a total concept put together by Ian Fleming. He was white and Scottish, period. That is who James Bond is, Limbaugh said. But now they're suggesting that the next James Bond should be Idris Elba, a black Briton, rather than a white man from Scotland. But that's not who James Bond is, and I know it's racist to probably point this out. He went on to compare the casting to the idea of George Clooney and Kate Hudson starring as Barack and Michelle Obama in a presidential biopic. He also said Hollywood might as well cast Kelsey Grammer as Nelson Mandela next time a film was made about the South African freedom fighter. Two things can be true. People can also be saying he should stay white because you should just keep historically white characters white. And they also could be saying that because they're racist and they don't want to see anybody who's non-white play originally white characters. And you can have that opinion, and that's fine. My thing is that making a historically or originally white character black isn't diversity. That is not what diversity is, and that's not what we're asking for when we are asking for diverse representation on screen. You can easily, I'm talking directly to Hollywood studios, commissioners, all of them around the world, you can commission a story by a black British or black American writer who is about a spy agent. It's very easy. It's very easy to do that. I mean, we've had historically black characters like that in the past, such as Shaft. If we want to have the representation of a black James Bond-esque type character, we can do that. I'm sure there's many black writers out there who have that idea, who probably have like a character like John Wick, for example, and black people could be in it, and you can find that. Over the past 10 years, within the discussion about who would play a black James Bond, it's a lot of the time it has always been Idris Elba, but then from the emergence of other black British actors on the global scale, there's been a lot of talk of Damson Idris, John Boyega, Reggae John Page. And if I had to choose, and let's say this gets greenlit, regardless of my opinion, I would go for Damson Idris. I feel like he's young, he's good looking. He, with James Bond, he can wear a suit well. And I feel like Damson Idris would be the perfect person to play James Bond if they went in that direction. But personally, For me to keep James Bond white, and who should be the next James Bond, I'd love it to be Michael Fassbender. I feel like he has the swag, the way he carries himself. He just encapsulates what James Bond looks like and what I imagine him to be, because my favorite James Bond actors are Sean Connery and Daniel Craig, and I feel like he would be the best person to step into that role. But who do you guys think? Who do you guys think should be the next James Bond? Even if you want him to be black or if you want him to be white, please let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Another thing that I did want to look at was The Little Mermaid and how that was starring the black singer songwriter Halle Bailey. And you guys would be surprised to know that I actually was for Halle playing The Little Mermaid. And you're probably like, whoa, whoa, like, what do you mean? You just went on this whole rant about why you should keep historically original characters white. Um, why would you change your mind and have a different perspective? The reason why I have a different perspective is because of the way they retold the story of the Little Mermaid. It was a colorblind casting. So when you watch the film, within the world that they've set, it's set in a world that is just colorblind. Like race isn't a factor, and that's what made it work. And if to me, I feel like if you're gonna retell a classic story, you've got to do it in a way that makes it different and unique and has a fresh perspective on it. And I think they did it well within that universe. And that's what I'm for. If you're going to have a colorblind casting and it works and it doesn't come across corny or cringe, then I'm here for it. Just like Brandy's Cinderella in 1997, with Whitney Houston, that was a colorblind casting and it worked. And that was a phenomenal hit. And it's still talked about today because it's one of the best iterations of Cinderella, ever. So the representation of diversity does matter within certain characters, especially when we're looking at representation from the lens of a child. That is where it's more important. What do you guys think? Do you want James Bond to be black? Do you agree with colorblind casting? And do you think telling films in that way works? Let me know your thoughts. And thanks again, guys, for listening. And I hope you like these type of episodes that I'm doing. Please let me know because there's so much more that I want to talk about. And if you guys are enjoying this content before the release of season 3B, let me know.